Hereby given that due to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and recent executive orders issued by the governor, Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals hearing scheduled for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 6 p.m. will be held electronically via Zoom webinar instead of an in-person public hearing and will be streamed live over the internet. Anyone interested in providing comments to the zoning board on an agenda item is encouraged to do so prior to the date of the meeting, too late. And dated September 1st, 2020. John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the con is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Good evening. First application 519-20, Glenn M. and Stephanie Viziosi Vogel, permission to erect second story addition 8.1 by 12.1, leaving front yard of 25 feet instead of required 30 feet. Residence A District, south side of Garrity Street, number 14, 313.82 feet west of 3rd Street, East Islip.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. It's Michael Dunn here to represent the Vogels. I'm at 1981 Union Boulevard in Bay Shore, New York.
Great. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How's everybody?
Good. Thanks. You're here seeking permission to erect a second story addition. It appears to be over a one-story addition that's already permitted. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's a one-story sunroom on the first floor. We're looking to expand the second floor to make more space for bedrooms upstairs. That sunroom, the proposed addition is right in line with what's below, which important to know it's behind the front edge of the house.
Yep.
It is a small addition, and if you see the houses on that block are all less than 30 feet. So we're asking for 25 instead of 30, which is a de minimis ask.
Sure. And the house holds less of a setback than you're asking for.
That's correct.
Right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. So have a great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Application number 520-20, Robin R. Blanco and Glenda and Manuel E. Melendez. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to isotown code, section 68-602, Residence AA District, north side of Drayton Avenue, number 35, 300 feet east of Stein Drive, Bay Shore, New York. Anyone here for this application?
She is here. There she is.
Hi, can you hear me?
Roxanne, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Just name and address for the record, please.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting, with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Right.
Here to establish an accessory apartment. The home is owner occupied. The driveway has been approved by engineering and the apartment is 521 square feet.
Great. Everything's in order, Mayor?
Everything's in order.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Are you on the next one too?
Yes, I do.
Application number 521-20, Renault and Elaine Florian. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to isotown code, section 68-602, with driveway having width of 20 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, and on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, north side of Gray Street, number 35, 225.95 feet west of Islip Avenue, Brentwood, New York.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting, with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Good evening.
Good evening. Here to establish an accessory apartment. The home is owner occupied. The apartment is 549 square feet. And we're also here for the driveway. It is on the side property line instead of the required 4 feet, and does have a width of 20 instead of the minimum of 18.
All right. Well, we see this a lot with you. Some of your applications, we go to 24.
Yes.
The side property line, it's only at that one front part of it. I'm assuming that planning has no objection, Deirdre?
Wait, no. I don't think that's correct, Mr. Chairman. I think it runs the whole length of the property. Am I reading this wrong?
But it's only on the side property line and that front part of it. It goes in, right?
I mean, the driveway continues though, the entire length of the property. The garage is in the back. Am I missing something?
No, but I believe it holds. It
It
holds.
doesn't.
It holds the
doesn't-
4 feet where it bows over there?
It
Is that
holds a
what you're
couple.
saying?
It doesn't hold 4 feet possibly. It's not marked, but I'm assuming it holds 2 feet.
It holds about 2 feet going up instead of the 4.
Okay.
Do you find something wrong with that, Mr. Messina?
No,
We'll-
No, well, I'm fine.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Everything's in order, man?
Everything's in order.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application and grant the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in
All,
favor?
aye.
Application granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great
You
night.
too, Roxanne.
Application number 522-20, Mark J. Belkin and Gina Manuel. Permission to leave pool patio having rear yard of 2.5 feet and side yard of 3.7 feet instead of required 6 feet each. Residence B District, north side of Officials Avenue, 410 feet west of Coates Avenue, Holbrook. Anyone here in this application?
Yes, sir. My name's Mark Belkin, 157 Officials Avenue.
How are you tonight, sir?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
Good. So you're seeking permission to leave pool patio. It appears it's just on the curved edges where it's a little bit too close.
Yes, sir.
Mm,
It's those pavers, right? Correct, as the survey says?
Yes. Yes, so just pavers, and there's a small area of mulch, like a small garden next to it that butts up to the fence.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Make the motion to grant, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Application number 523-20, Matthew Durkin and Karen Richter. Permission to leave pool patio having front yard of 22 feet instead of required 30 feet and rear yard of 5 feet instead of required 6 feet, and to leave fence 4.5 feet high, having front yard of 0.9 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence A District, east side of Secretog Lane East, 900 feet south of Bay 8th Street, West Islip.
Did we lose Ms. Pissarro too? No, there she is.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
We have the applicant.
Oh, here I am. Matthew Durkin, 3 Secretog Lane East, West Islip, New York.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good. You're here seeking permission to leave a pool patio
And the fence, yes.
and the fence. Pool patio front on 22, so required 30. They seem de minimis the pool patio, 4.5 fence, foot high fence, excuse me, having front yard at 0.9 instead of required 15. That's on Secretog Lane.
Yes, we're at the end, there's a dead end where the point of the property ends to the right of the .46.
Do you know, Deidre, do you know of any precedent in that area for fences on the property line, second front yard?
There's no precedent for the fence on the second front yard, but it is not the usual fence that we see on the property line, being that it's not 6 feet in height. It's only 4.5. So I believe even if they can move it back a little bit, I'd be fine with that rather than making them move it back to the 15 feet just because of the height.
What's a little bit?
I'd
Foot,
be-
2 feet?
I was thinking 8.
Well, they could leave it. Can they leave it? If it was 4 foot, they could leave it?
No, I believe it's 3 feet. Is it 4 feet?
It is
I
I
4
thought
feet.
thought it was 4
It's
feet.
3 feet if it's in the sight distance triangle.
Right.
It's 4 otherwise.
Is it in the sight distance triangle?
There's really no triangle here because it's not a true corner.
There's no driveway or other street it'd be connecting to, so
Right.
We do have two people who have moved from the attendee panel into the panelists who stated that they would like to be heard on the application. I'm asking them to start their video or unmute themselves.
We can get to them in 1 second. I have a couple questions for the board. The code is 4 feet, it's 4.5. It's on a corner overlooking a beach. Do we have some input from the board or?
Well,
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
like- Go ahead, Mr. Wexler.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vinny.
No, please.
My concern is it's 0.9. I think we should have some setback. I mean, if we get, not that we get many 4.5, but if we do, I don't know if we can allow them on the property line, and we'll have to. So I think the 8-foot recommendation by planning makes sense. It's an accommodation.
Yeah, I don't feel as strongly about it. I mean, again, it's not a true corner. It doesn't block vision, and I mean, we don't have, unless, I'm curious to see what the public has to say about it. But my feeling prior to that is that this does not offend me as it does my colleague. So for whatever that's worth.
Well, it doesn't offend me.
Okay. It doesn't concern me the way it concerns
If
you.
something like that I found offensive, man, I'm living in the wrong century.
True fact.
I have to agree a bit with Mr. Messina. I don't think it's a true corner either. So, but let's see what the public has to say. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Oh, Mr. Azzopardi, you might have to unmute yourself.
How are you? I'm Maurice Azzopardi. I live in 4 Suckatog Lane across the street from Matt. The fence is not a solid fence. It's a spindle style aluminum fence. So it's totally see-through. It is in a dead end of a cul-de-sac where no one really is ever there other than people that park to go to the beach club, which is a very minimal amount. It's very unobtrusive. The yard, he's done an amazing job with the looks of the yard and the cosmetics. Like I said, he did not build it or a solid fence. So it's an open see-through fence that I'm sure that you've driven by and seen. So it's not intrusive in any way onto the street line or traffic or any way of that way. So I'm for it.
Thank
And
you.
where do you live, sir, in relation to this
Directly
property?
across the street.
You're across the street. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your input.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Is there one more, Mary?
Oh, there is one more. John, can you hear us? John Davis?
And then, Mr. Chairman, when we're done, I have a question for the applicant, if I may.
His audio is on. For some reason, he doesn't have video. Well, I have a letter of support from John Davis from the Willets Point Association. Looks like he can't get his audio to work. The Willets Point Association represents regarding the fence, which is directly across the street from our association property. The additional 6 inches in height has no negative impact on our community. In fact, the fence itself is very attractive due to its open design. Additionally, the setback of the pool patio appears to be a minor issue, having no impact on neighbors. The applicant has nearly completed a major renovation of the house and property, which has been a tremendous improvement for our community. We fully support the application. Thank you for your attention. John C. Davis, President. Hope I did okay, John.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Oh, Natasha had to try to get that. Mary.
Oh,
slow
sorry,
down.
Natasha. Yeah.
Yeah, most of it.
Mr. Messina, you had something to ask the applicant?
Yeah. Look, that 4.5-foot fence on your perimeter wouldn't count as the fence required to secure your pool area. And I don't really see one here on the aerial. Is there another fence more interior to the property that would surround the pool, a 6-foot fence, self-closing, self-latching gate, all the requirements for the pool?
So the fence is in approximately the new fence is in approximately the same location as the one that you can see in the aerial. And
I can't see one in the area. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, so if you look at the bottom left corner of the house, there's a line that goes directly south. That's the fence line. and then-
Okay, I see. All right, I
and
got
it
it.
follows those hedges, which we've
Yep.
removed, but they used to be probably 8.5 feet tall.
Right.
And then we pushed the fence to be at least on the property line or in from the property line. And the pool is not where it's shown in that area. We removed that one and we put it south where the bushes are shown, and we pushed that back 30 feet from the property line to meet the code. I was honestly unaware of the 4.5 foot, the 4 foot requirement. But I feel more comfortable because it is a pool in the backyard and it's 4.5 is better than 4, but
Did you get a CO for the new pool? Or is that why you're here now?
I think the pool CO is being held up for this patio and for the fence because
Okay.
that was part of the inspection.
All right, but there were no other deficiencies with the fence then?
No, not with the pool and the fence. The only issue was the height of the fence, correct?
And how close it was? Okay, thank you.
You know, my opinion, board members, I do think this is a circumstance that we could look at. Again, it's only a half-inch height in our code. It's on
Half-foot.
half foot. I'm sorry, not half inch. I apologize. It's on our. It's on a if you want to call it a cul-de-sac that is adjacent to a beach access.
And it's not a true corner. I
Not a
mean,
true
that's
corner.
huge.
It doesn't offend me much at all on this application. I don't know what everyone else is thinking.
I'm not offended by it, notwithstanding our vice chairman's belief.
I'm fine with it too.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Anyone further wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wax, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Application 524-20, Jessica Torres, permission to leave above-ground pool having building separation of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet, and pool deck 30 inches high, having rear yard 9 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence B District, north side of Windsor Street, 235 feet east of Grimsley Road, isil. Anyone here on that application?
Yes, she is. I just moved her into the panel.
Hi, guys.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good. Jessica Torres at 15 Windsor Street, Islip, New York, 11751.
Great. So you're here seeking permission to leave an above-ground pool, building separation of 4 instead of 6. It appears it's just where the steps come down.
Correct.
Okay, and pool deck, rear yard 9 instead of 10, seems de minimis to me. Deirdre from planning, any objection from planning?
No objections.
With the above-ground pool, Ms. Torres, we normally say, and the decks, we normally say life of the pool and the deck. So if you should have to change the pool or the deck at some point, you'd have to comply.
Okay.
All right. Of course, we have to hear if anyone's wanting to be heard and if the board has any questions first, but just figure I'd let you know that.
Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Weck, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
You have a great night. Stay safe.
You too.
You too.
Application number 471-20, adjourned from August 18th, 2020. Thomas and Kathleen Orlando, permission to erect 2-story dwelling, leaving floor area ratio of 32% instead of permitted 25%, to erect deck, leaving rear yard of 8 feet instead of required 10 feet, and to erect detached garage having 10 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of permitted, required 20 feet. Excuse me, and having proposed door height of 11.5 feet instead of permitted 8 feet. Residence B District, southwest corner of Fern Place and Shore Drive, Oakdale, New York.
James, are you with us?
Yep. Hello. How are you?
James, how are you?
Good evening, board members. James Zapka from Title Connell Architects, 1200 Veterans Highway, Hauppauge, New York.
How are you tonight?
I am good. We're back with a revised site plan, partially from the board's recommendation and wishes from our last hearing we had. We have shortened the deck up to comply with the 8-foot request off the rear property line as recommended. And we have adjusted the position of the detached garage. We are coming back asking a 10-foot setback from the rear property line. I'm sorry, from behind the front line of the house, where we originally asked for 0. And we are requesting the door from 8 feet to 11 feet as originally requested. We took a look at the site plan, and the where the lot is actually located in comparison is, as we talked, it is kind of a narrow lot, the way the house is positioned on there. And we feel that the new position of the garage is I guess a minimalist request as compared to what we did last time. We're asking for a 50% relaxation from the 20-foot requirement.
James, a quick question for you. You have the area, you according to your site plan, is 14 feet from the rear yard. So you could go another 10-foot back and it'd be 4 feet, which it's under 500 square feet to detached structure. So you're fine with the rear. Why won't you do that?
We're asking for the 10 feet behind the house. We feel if we push the garage all the way back, and as we talked on the aerial, this lot is really, the rear yard of this lot is actually someone's side yard. We feel pushing this garage all the way against that is going to start to impede on the person that is directly west of them.
We see an area. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's a subject property.
You're saying if you push it back to the west, but it seems like there's plenty of land between that house and west, if I'm looking at it correctly, and your garage.
Correct. The way the garage, the position would be, if we push it all the way back to the 4 feet, it might become a site or someone that the neighbor that might not agree with it being pushed back that far.
Unfortunately, it would be, well, fortunately and unfortunately, it would be within the code that the town has. And right now, building a detached structure not 20 feet behind the front line of a dwelling is the code. So how do we give you this grant of 10 feet, not 20, and deny other people when they come in front of the board? That's the situation we have.
And where you can comply, you should.
Understood. We're asking for relief as we originally requested, just the corner lot being tough to have a detached garage. I understand, the board's view on the situation of this. But we are requesting that, if we can get the 10 feet.
Yeah, but we have no legitimate basis to grant it. We know you want it, and we know the property may not support what you want, but how do we grant it? And as our chairman said, and say no to the next applicant. There's no overwhelming reason that would compel us.
Especially since you can comply. I mean, that's tough. And the other tough thing is the height of the door.
Yes.
On the...
Can you tell us again why the height of the door? You request that height of the door?
The owner of the property has a boat that he would like to store in the winter outside of, not from the elements. That's why the height of the door requesting is above the 8 feet.
Yeah, again, being a boater myself, I appreciate that, but that's not something that we can hang our hats on as a board to grant. We have to be granting that to everyone that comes for a garage height, a detached structure height of a door. I don't know. I'm just speaking for myself. Obviously, we have to vote as a board, but I don't know how we can approve 10 feet and not 20 when it's being constructed. Deidre, I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, there's no precedent in the area of not that it much matters, but there's nothing.
The only thing there's precedent for is the deck rear yard, but they made it better, so I think that that's perfectly fine. And for the floor area ratio, there is precedent for 32%. But for the garage and the door height, there's no precedent.
Okay. So you see where we're going, Mr. Zapka?
Okay, so we would have to make the garage comply, but we are granted for the FAR and the deck variance, correct?
Well, we'd have to vote on it, but right now it's looking positive in your direction, but we'd have to see if anyone wants to be heard and see what the board votes on, but yeah, that's where it's looking at right now. All right.
Okay.
Is anyone- I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, to get everything moving as far as the client's concerned, we would have to just make the garage comply and go forward with the project from there.
Yeah, there are other options. You can make the garage a little smaller. You can move it back. You can attach it. There's other
Right.
options. But it's up to you.
Yeah, I think they would do that as long as as long as the FAR variance and the rear yard deck setback. At this point, I think that's their only option if the board will grant any relief.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, we're denying the height of the garage or the garage in its entirety?
The height and the garage in its entirety, because it's not 10 feet, it's not 20 feet behind.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to deny the garage in height and
Door height.
door height and the setback, and to grant the remainder of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 525-20, Luis A. and Maria L. Cajamarca. Permission to leave roof over 4 foot by 9 foot, having side yard of 11 feet instead of required 14 feet, Residence B District, east side of Belford Avenue, 60 feet south of Tilly Street, Bay Shore, New York. Anyone here on this application?
She's here. Maria, you may just have to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Okay, there you are.
Hi, my name is Luis from 67 Belfort Avenue, Bayshore, New York.
Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
Very good. How are you today?
We're doing well, thank you. So you're here seeking permission to leave a roof over with a side yard of 11 instead of 14.
Uh-huh.
It appears from the survey, the house holds a smaller side yard than 14 also, correct?
Yeah.
House holds about 7.5 feet, 8 feet, right? Is that what it's saying on the survey?
No, my roof is 11 feet from the property line. 11 feet, but they say it's supposed to be 14 feet.
Right, I'm saying the house though, the house itself.
Oh yeah, the house is like I think I know exactly, but I think like 8 feet.
Yeah, it's 8 feet, correct. All right, Deirdre, any objection from planning?
No objections. It seems de minimis and it's not any further intruding than the house itself.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
I just want to say that is the finest photograph of anyone that we've had all night. So thank you for that, sir.
I didn't see the photograph. I missed that.
Yeah, scroll down and you'll see on his camera.
I gotta check this out before we go on this one. Oh, that's great.
It's the best. God bless you, sir.
Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Application granted. So have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Application 526-20, BAM Homes, Inc. Permission to erect two-story dwelling with cellar entrance and roof over porch, having lot area of 14,867 square feet instead of the required 20,000 square feet. Lot width of 70 feet instead of required 100 feet throughout, leaving side yards of 14.2 feet instead of required 18 feet each. and total side yards of 28.4 feet instead of required 36 feet. Residence AA District, south side of 6th Avenue, 150 feet west of Brentwood Road, Brentwood, New York. Is anyone here on this application?
Mr. Chairman, Amy from Woodhull Expediting, 1031 Main Street, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777.
How are you tonight, Amy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Go ahead, state
So
your
my, sorry?
Go ahead, state your case.
Okay, so my client is proposing to build a two-story residence on this property. There was at one time a home on the property built in 1956, which did have a certificate of occupancy, which was demolished prior to my client's purchase. We think it was demolished sometime between 2016 and 2018, and I believe it was demolished by the town. So we are proposing a very similar house than what once existed on the property. This particular scenario is very similar to other homes in the neighborhood with as far as the setbacks are concerned. And this is again a two-story colonial with a front porch and a rear cellar entrance. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Great. Thank you. Deidre, any objection from planning?
There has been a house there since 1956, I believe is when the CO says.
Yep.
And
Right.
as far as the aerials, we can see a house all the way up to 2016. I'm not sure what happened to the house that was there previously, but
How about lot size? Is that common for the area?
no, there wasn't any precedent except for a cellar side yard, just showing that someone does have a cellar entrance that's about the same side yard as this one, as this proposed house has.
I was talking about lot size,
Yeah.
lot width, lot.
That's what I'm saying. There's no precedent for that. The only thing I was able to find was for the whole entire,
And could that be because the zoning ordinance itself permitted 70 footers at one time, 50 footers at one time?
I think it could be. I'm not entirely too sure.
I mean, I'm looking at the aerial and it doesn't
Yeah.
look
This
so,
floor right there, that's
right? Doesn't look so out of line.
4 houses all had like the same
Yeah.
conditions.
Mr. Messina, we in reviewing the aerials, we found that most of the homes in this neighborhood are actually built on much smaller lots than what we're proposing. And
What's, I'm sorry, tell me the sizes that you found with
Well,
a
I'm just-
500-foot radius.
if you're just looking at the surrounding properties just directly to the west, right before, I think that's a church over there, those lots are all, it looks to be about half the size of the lot that we're proposing to improve.
Well, what about width-wise? You have 70. How many do you have that are less than 70?
The 4 surrounding lots are all the same exact width.
How many do you have that are less?
Less, I'm not sure
Yeah.
that there's any less.
Okay, how many others then? I mean, I see the 4 surrounding, it's pretty convincing, but how about within a 500-foot radius? Can you tell us how many other 70-footers are there?
I didn't actually do a radius map or check the
Okay.
entire 500-foot radius. I just looked at the immediate surrounding homes.
Okay, thank you. But
You do
those
have-
all look 70, the 3
Yeah,
of the
They
4,
should
yeah.
do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there was a house at one point on the CO. So,
Yes.
all right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Application number 527-20, Eva A. Baccio, permission to install in-ground pool, leaving rear yard of 8 feet, and side yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet each, and pool patio, leaving rear yard and side yard of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet each. Residence A District, east side of Maroki Lane, 150 feet north of Manistee Lane, East Islip, New York. Anyone here on this application?
She's here.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
You.
Hi, Eva Baccio, 83 Maroki Lane, East Islip, New York, 11730. How is everybody?
Everyone's great, thank you. You're seeking permission to install an in-ground pool. with some rear yard and side yards a little short. And pool patio also.
Correct.
Seems like you have a little bit of room for some movement according to the survey if it was drawn to scale.
Yep.
So we say
yeah.
on the board, if you can comply, why wouldn't you?
How are you? My name's Anthony. We actually just got married, so the last names are different at the moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We
Not
did it at the house. I canceled the honeymoon, so now we're looking at a pool.
You and everyone else in the
I know. A lot of things changing over these past few months. So I guess we had two pool contractors we were looking at to just come give us quotes, and we're kind of feeling this out with us. And the way the yard sits, and obviously a rectangle is its most standard but cheapest kind of pool you can build. It just, if we pushed it up 14 feet, it would be smack in the middle of the yard and kind of render the whole back half of that pool. I mean, if you guys obviously have had pools or have pools, nobody really hangs out behind the pool. So we're trying to kind of keep as much grass, but keep the pool somewhat aesthetically pleasing in that backyard. So we were trying to push it back as much as we can within reason, in our opinion, I guess. I mean, that's what you guys are here for. But just to get some feedback and see how you can help us out in kind of figuring this one out.
So hard to say you want as much grass as possible when I see this very elongated area of pavers to the south, I guess, right?
Yep. So behind, what you see behind that garage, we just moved the house a year ago, so we're kind of trying to clean things up. That whole back of the yard, they just had like gravel, so there's really no grass back there. But we're actually
you can plant grass.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually only going to do, which we kind of adjusted this a little bit. Just instead of doing a 4 foot around the pool, just 2 feet on the west and east side. So we're trying to keep as much grass in between the house and the pool as possible.
So let me just ask Deirdre from planning a question. Deirdre, any side and rear yard setback in the area precedents?
There is one precedent from 1976 for a side yard of 8 feet and a rear yard of 10 feet. But looking at that decision, it was a very reluctant decision. And I believe the pool was already there. And that was kind of why they allowed it.
Okay.
But keeping that in mind, I would be okay if they just pushed the pool up a little bit and maybe had a rear yard of 10 feet as opposed to the rear yard of 8 feet.
So that's kind of what the plan, the one guy I think we're probably going to go with. He said, and that's funny, I mean, that's exactly what he was saying. If we just shrunk the pavers to 2 feet around that east side, the back fence, because like I said, sorry.
No, I don't think it's just shrinking the pavers. I think you've got to move the pool.
Yeah, the pool's got to Deirdre from planning was recommending 10 feet on the rear yard. The pool's only sitting 8 feet now.
Yeah, so I think what I was getting, I'm sorry, the dog's a little crazy. The 10 feet on all sides is fine. We're actually gonna shrink the pavers.
But the pool has to be just, not even shrinking the pavers, the pool has to be.
The pool is 10 feet on the side yard, Mr. Chairman. I think that, and what he's saying is he would shrink the pavers on the south so that they would be 10 feet as well. Is that right, sir?
Yes, so the pool itself would be 10 off both sides, and the back half, the east side, which is the back side of the house, would just be shrunk. Instead of doing 4 feet pavers, because it's essentially useless behind the pool, you just want to be able to walk. We don't need 4 feet, we really just need 2. And that actually helps us save a little money with the pavers anyways. So 10 feet on both sides, exactly.
So you'll do 10 feet on rear and side.
Correct.
How does the board feel about 10 feet on rear and side?
I'm fine with that.
Me too, I'm fine with that.
Alexa?
Yes.
Great. And the patio, pool patio, obviously 4 instead of 6, you're going to shrink it down, but I think we're okay with that too, correct, guys?
Yeah, we did the measurement. Yes. It fell under the half.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Calvin, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny the application as presented, but grant the application leaving a rear yard of 10 feet and the side yard of 10 feet instead of 14 on the pool patio. Was that correct?
On the pool itself.
On the pool itself. And
Grant the patio, right?
and grant the patio.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application
Aye.
granted as amended, if you want to say that.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about the delay.
No worries.
We had a quarantine adoption as well, so we ended up with a third one for all of us.
Good for you guys. Have a good night.
All right,
Thank you, you too.
Application 528-20, Alexander Mark Stavis. Permission to leave shed and patio on rear property line, not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence B District, west side of Holman Avenue, 138.78 feet south of Gibson Street, Bay Shore. Anyone here in an application?
He's here. I've just moved him in. We might have to help him a little bit to get his video started. Okay, Mr. Castman. Okay, good. We're going to be able to hear. There you go. All set.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Castman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if you can see me, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, I see myself now. Okay. How you doing? For Alex Stavis, 83 Carlton Avenue, Centralized. So, good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Good.
State your case. What's going on?
Well, Mr. Stavis is seeking to have a variance for the shed on his property. The shed has been existing since 1937. His family purchased the property in 1950. He's made some repairs over the years because of where it is in relation to the water. He was going about getting solar panels, and that's when the shed became an issue. So we're asking that he be approved a variance. Apparently there's some setback issues. So that's our argument or position.
All right. Deirdre from planning, I'm assuming there's no precedent?
The only precedent is for a patio with a rear yard of 0 feet.
Are there any documents or records that can support Mr. Castman's statement that it's been there since the 30s?
I was going to say, do they even need a variance if it's been there, if they can prove that?
I
Well,
don't,
they may not have the witnesses, so you could go the other way, Mr. Chairman, right, with the variance instead.
Well, the problem is somebody did come out and inspect it, and as I indicated, Mr. Stavis has made some repairs, so they, it's been
Modified.
a little bit over the years because it's so close to the water, and obviously, we all know what happens when you're near the water. I mean, apparently there's other things or structures close to the water, including boathouses, my client indicates. So
I think Mr. Messina's question was, what proof do you have that it existed as long as you say it had?
well, apparently there's one of his neighbors also.
No, what proof do you have for us tonight?
Are there aerial photographs that planning has maybe, or, anything of that nature? Is there anything even from tax records, anything that would help support that statement? Because if it is, it makes it a much easier, I think it makes it a much easier decision for us.
So I guess put another way, I guess it's a yes or no. Do you have any proof tonight that it existed since 1930s, as you said?
I do not, but I believe there were other neighbors that were supposed to have, I guess, made some type of statements prior to this.
There was a neighbor who called in on the answering machine and just voiced his support and said that it has been there for many years. I don't think he testified that it's been there since the 30s.
I don't think that's quite the quantum of proof that we require.
Sean, do you think you can get an affidavit from the neighbors or any other proof if we gave you a little time to come in and show that property's been there for that time period?
Yes, definitely.
Well, I would suggest maybe that you take an adjournment to bring back that proof. It might make things easier for you.
Okay.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
some affidavits or any type of documentation, I guess.
whatever you can get.
Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, Deirdre and I were a little confused about the way the denial was written, and then on further inspection of the survey, we thought maybe we saw a reason. So maybe since we're going to take an adjournment, maybe we can address this when you come back. Is there an addition to the shed behind the shed that's causing it to be on the rear property line? Because otherwise we're not seeing it being on the rear property line. Can you see the reference on the survey?
I don't believe there's any addition that he made out.
Looks like, it
Am I
looks
up?
like the side property line, doesn't it, Ms. Pissarro?
Yes, it's definitely on the side property line.
And then a planter seems to be onto the rear property line, but
Yeah.
not the shed itself.
I
What
think
is
that,
the shed, dash shed, what is,
I think that the larger structure that we're all referring to as the shed, it may have been determined by the building department that they can grant a certificate of compliance on that. And that's why there's no reference to the side property line in the call of the meeting.
Okay.
But then
well-
there's a tiny structure attached to it on the northwest corner of it.
Yeah, Mr. Castman, if your clients could get us pictures of that too, that would be most helpful, I think, as well.
I have some pictures. I just don't know how to get it to you now.
No, you don't have to give it to us now. Yeah, you're going to have an adjournment, so you'll have time to get it to Ms. Pissarro and she can circulate it, or to the zoning board's office. And
Mary, I'm looking at the survey and where it says several places BHD, Baker,
Yeah, I have-
Harold, David. What does that stand for?
I've been looking at surveys for 30 years. I have no idea what BHD means.
nor do I.
Nor do I.
I mean, unless it's a reference to the bulkhead beneath it, but
But why the D? BH is bulkhead.
why BHD dash shed?
Well, shed we got, but we just
Yeah,
don't know BH.
with the dash and the BHD in front of it, I don't understand. And that would be why the zoning denial, which was written by Aldo Bernardi, who also has more experience reading surveys, he cites the rear property line being an issue, but not the side property line.
All right, well,
So,
we'll have an opportunity to straighten all this.
yeah, so I think the larger structure, which I'm sorry, I can't read the dimensions now, 8 by 20. I think the intent of the building department may be to issue a certificate of compliance on that due to age.
Again, we'll find out next.
Yep.
Yeah. So what's the adjournment date, Mary?
How's October 13th?
You good with that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn application to October 13th.
Second,
Can I ask you-
and we're getting a comment from someone in the audience that says BHD equals behind.
Oh, thank you, Angel.
Well, that
What
works.
is it?
I was trying to look it up too.
Behind shed.
I don't know. That's a planter though. It says, I don't know. We'll figure it out
Makes sense.
in October.
I think-
We'll
I think
figure it
the
out in
bill-
October.
I think the building department needs to figure it out a little better too, Mr. Castman, because during this time of the pandemic, there's, as you know, less face-to-face meeting to try to understand what these references are. So it may warrant a conversation with Aldo Bernardi, who wrote the zoning denial.
Okay. But does it matter that I mean, they make reference on the survey, maybe not that his property line or whatever goes to the middle of the canal? Does that make any difference or not?
No.
So the way the zoning code is written, the underwater land does not count for lot area or for setbacks. And we
Okay.
just had another good guess taken by an attorney who happens to be watching. And he says that the 2.4 or 2 foot 4 inches is the distance behind the shed to the edge of the bulkhead. Which again would be an indication that Mr. Bernardi didn't understand because he wrote it up as on the rear property line.
Oh, they're saying distance to the shed, distance to the shed from the water line, is that what you're saying?
It would be from the furthest line of the bulkhead. That's the way the code is written.
Oh, okay.
Not that I don't want to spend all night on this. but we can guess
Well,
forever.
I'm just saying, I don't want to come
Let's
back
find
on.
out in October and move along to the next application.
Yeah, I don't want to come back in October and not have these questions answered.
What was
Right?
that date again? I'm sorry.
Huh?
October
October
what?
13th, day after Columbus Day.
I apologize.
Okay, and if I get some pictures and speak to Mr. Bernardi, I guess.
And some affidavits, whatever you can get.
We
All
might
right.
be actually revising the call of the meeting.
Okay,
All right, so we made a motion to adjourn to October 13th. We'll move on to the next application.
thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You too.
See you
Mr.
guys.
Messina, can you take over for this application? I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Application number 529-20, Mary Ann Dabrowski and Thomas Murphy, permission to leave a one-story addition 9.6 feet by 9.83 feet, having a front yard of 23.5 feet instead of the required 40 feet, and a driveway on the side property line, not having a required setback of 4 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Pond Road, 300 feet south of Erie Street through lot to Locust Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
She's here. Let's help her get started. Oh, here we go.
Marianne Dobrovolsky, 2482 Pond Road, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening, and who's with you? If they're going to speak, please put your appearance on the record, sir.
Thomas Murphy, 2482 Pond Road, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779.
Thank you. All right. Do you wish to add anything with respect to your application?
Nope. Sorry, I didn't know that I was going to be speaking. We had an expediter who was supposed to be doing most of the.
Yeah, I emailed him a little while ago. I didn't hear anything back.
Do you want to wait for him? We can put this at second call.
Yes, certainly. We're new property owners. This stuff predates us, so.
No worries. So, all right, I'll make a motion that we second call the application.
I'm here.
Oh, Amy. Okay, you're going to stand in for.
Yes, I'm sorry. That was confusing because I'm here on behalf of Andrew Malgonara.
Okay.
Understood.
Okay, it didn't say that on the application.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so Amy DeVito, Woodhull Expediting, 1031 Main Street, Port Jefferson, New York, and I'm here on behalf of Andrew Malgonara, agent for the applicant. So as the homeowner said, they are new owners, so they don't know the complete history of the property, but we did surmise that the addition is to the front left of the home. The addition itself does not encroach any further into the established setback than the house does, which has a CO. As far as the driveway, it is on the line. It's actually, if you look at it in person, and I do have a picture here, it is a pretty narrow driveway, which is why it's right on the line. It creates a pathway to the rear garage. You go directly past the house, and I'll hold up this picture for you to see it. That's it right there.
Mr. Vice Chairman, may I ask a question? Before we get to the driveway, ma'am, I see that it's a 23-foot setback instead of 40.
Correct.
All right, just make sure I'm reading it right. How did it get like that?
So
Was it by variance?
No, we're here today to request. Oh, you mean the house?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
How did
said,
it
I
get-
think, I'm sorry, Mr. Wexler, please.
No, how did it get to be 23 feet instead of 40?
I believe it was built prior to the zoning code. The CO, the house was built in 1960.
1950. Apologies.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, 1950.
And we didn't have a code in
I'm
1950?
sorry. I'm reading this wrong. The house was built in 1922.
On the
Wait a
CO,
while.
there's an addition to the one family dwelling on the CO from July of 43.
Yes. So the house was built in 1922. There was an addition in 1943. Apparently there was a pool erected in 1960, which now appears to be gone. And there was also the detached garage, which was erected.
No, Mike, I'm just trying to find out how the house got to be 23 instead of 40. Is there a CO for that? Is it CO
Yes.
at its present? And that's based from what?
That is, as per the CO, the house was built in 1922. It's right here.
I know it was built in 1922, but it looks, okay.
There's Mr. Wexler, there's, on the CO, it states the one family dwelling built in circa 22. Then there's an addition to the one family dwelling with a CO from 43. There's a
What was
swimming-
the addition? Do we have any idea?
It just says addition to one family dwelling, C/occupancy, 8 July 43. That's all it says on it.
Okay.
And swimming pool, 1960. And then there's an accessory structure along with the one family dwelling built circa 1922 with attached carport on slab, all that jazz. That's all on the CO.
Okay.
all
Is
with-
the 23-foot setback, is that consistent with the homes up and down Pond Road?
Yeah, there are a few homes in the neighborhood that are pretty, actually closer to the property line than my client's home. Right diagonal 84 2nd Street is, as well as 82nd Street, 76 2nd Street. 2nd Street, there's a lot of homes that are very close. It looks like over on First Street, there's also a lot of homes which are very close. These are all the streets that are directly to the west of the subject premises.
It
Okay,
appears, Alex, if we
when-
measured it from the road, it appears that it's probably holding, the house is probably holding 26. If I were to guess, I don't have a rule with me, but
Yeah.
It's probably measuring 26.
maybe Deidre can help us if that's the nature and character of the neighborhood or what it looks like. Only because when we hear things like, oh, there's a few, or there's a couple, or there's a lot, that doesn't give us anything to grab onto as concrete numbers.
Yeah, if you zoom a little bit out of this aerial, I don't know if you guys could do that. You could see that almost.
Well, why don't we ask Deidre at planning and she'll be able to give us more of an exact calculation.
I believe this property was part of a subdivision where it was granted a front yard of 23.8, and there was another house around this area that was granted 24 feet. So I think that just because of how the house is not going along with the curve of the property line, that's kind of why it gets closer at this point. But I believe this house was granted at 23.8, 24 feet with the front yard.
Okay, thank you. That's all I'm just trying to find out.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. Take it from here. You're back.
Oh, I didn't even miss you.
I've been back.
I did. I missed you terribly, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I want to make sure that's on the record.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted.
Congratulations, folks, on your nuptials.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Right. Application number 530-20, Christy A. and James M. Folks Jr. Permission to exceed compensating excavation provision 68-442A 3C by proposing 232.8 cubic yards of surplus fill into floodplain. Residence A District, north side of Sunset Drive, 1,320 feet south of Montauk Highway, Sable, New York.
Chairman, Chairman, I was going to say, would you let the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from this application?
Well, thank you very much.
And before you get started, I just want to let you know that we have had somebody who's calling in who was not identified. We can't write to them if they're a call in. If you would like to be heard on any particular application, please raise your virtual hand, caller. And that's it. Everybody else is accounted for.
All right. And I'm assuming that there's a form of a Garbarino on this application. If that's
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. I'm Andrew Garbarino, Office of William Garbarino, 40 Main Street, Sayville, New York, 11782. I'm here on behalf of Christy and James Folks, who is seeking permission to exceed compensating excavation provision 68-442A3C by proposing an additional 232.8 cubic yards of surplus fill into the floodplain. Mr. Chairman of the board, under the town law, the board, when granting a variance, needs to weigh the benefit to the applicant against the detriment to the safety, welfare, and health of the neighborhood. And in doing that, you consider several things, whether one, it's an undesirable change by granting the variance. There was a single family house here. All the applicants are doing are proposing to build another single family dwelling.
Mr. Garbarino, you're not in front of us for the house. You're in front of us for the excavation, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and that excavation is also, I would imagine, because of where you are.
Yes, I have an expert that is going to be testifying.
Well, look at that. There you go. So why don't you just jump to that, and that'll be helpful, I think.
Okay. Where's my expert on?
Oh, let's see. I've moved them both to the panel. Are you interested in the engineering expert or the architectural expert?
How about the engineering?
I would say, yeah, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
No, thank you. You're right on.
If he's not on, I was just going to say, he was going to tell you how wonderful the proposal this is. Best proposal ever.
He can be heard now. Apparently, there's no way to start the video, but.
Oh, that's okay, as long as we can hear.
Mark, can you hear us? It says he is unmuted. We might have to get the architect after all.
All right, let me ask you this, Mr. Garbarino. If you know, and because I certainly don't, I mean, how common is this in this area? Has this been done before? If so, where?
It's a new section to the code. So where there have been houses built up like this, there haven't been many variances granted because it wasn't. It's a new section. So you were, I think, prior to 2016, you didn't need a variance for this.
I see.
It's something that.
So then there's likely a
is-
lot of these down there. It's just never needed a variance before.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the middle of the cases that you have granted. It is in the middle of the amount. There's been 90s amounts in the 90. There's been amounts in 400 that you've granted in all over the town. It's a handful of precedent. I believe the expert was going to testify, and I read the plans.
He's telling me he tried and he's having problems, so I'm suggesting that he go out and back in again.
Is there did you submit a report, Mr. Garbarino, that we could?
There is, I believe the calculations are, it's pretty in-depth of where the fill is coming from. I think it's further down on the drainage structure.
Okay, no, I was just asking if you, in lieu of testimony, we could take a report.
Mr. Garbarino, maybe you can help me out in a sentence or two. Why do you need the 232 cubic feet?
And actually, it's the reason why we didn't ask for it when we were already here for a side yard and a rear yard variance. The health department for the septic system, we needed, they made us change the acceptable septic system and where we're going to put it. So it requires it to be a little higher, the property. So we have to bring in we have to bring in fill to raise it to the level where they want it.
They don't have the sewers out there?
Nope, no. East of Great River, we don't have sewers. I'm working on that. But
will that prevent a flow problem for the neighbors by raising it?
Where we have, and that's what the expert is going to testify. The neighbor to the south has already raised their property, and based on what the expert was going to talk about tonight was the fill that's being brought in. The way it's designed is to keep most of the flow on the property. And I believe, again, he was going to be more technical about it than I was. So I did talk to him about it before this. So that's why I don't have the specific information as to where the property where the water will be maintained on site and kept from flowing onto the other neighbors' properties.
Is the town engineer piped in on this? Has
Deirdre,
anybody from engineering or planning?
That's what I was going to ask Deirdre, if planning can chime in and see what their, if any objection or not.
My only hesitation is that I don't believe it was seen by the town engineer at all. I did speak with them and they didn't have any information on this, so that makes me a bit nervous. I don't want to have to ask the applicant to come back if there's something else that needs to be done or something that needs to be moved around.
Why are they here prior to the town engineer looking at it?
I believe it's just someone in the zoning department issued the zoning denial because it is over, from their records where they calculated it is over the amount permitted for compensating excavation. But
Mr. Garbarino, you see our conundrum.
Well, no, I mean, the conundrum is the plans have been in for since we filed, and I think it fell through the cracks on the town side.
Let's say that's true. How do we as a board, and it may be a perfectly valid.
That's why we have the expert tonight to testify.
Yeah, but I would prefer to have the town a neutral party. It's your expert retained by your clients. I get it, but doesn't it seem to make sense that we should have a neutral party sound off on this? Because if we grant something and it's problematic, we've lost our power and the town's lost their power. What do we do?
Well, problematic. I mean, if we would need more fill, we'd have to come back for more fill.
No, the other way around. If we create an overflow problem and it's not maintaining the water on their property, that's my concern. And I don't have the answer to that. And I think generally we have the town engineer chime in, so we have the town's position.
I'm not sure if the town engineer in the previous cases I reviewed has testified to previous.
Not testified, but they've reviewed it, haven't they?
I didn't see anything on the record. I'm not sure. You guys have.
Well, ultimately, they review everything before you get your permit.
Yes, the board has.
In
But
just
I mean,
the one or two cases that I've seen, I've personally talked to the engineer. So I've discussed with him if this is along the lines of what's needed for the site and things like that. So they haven't testified themselves, but I've at least spoken with them and kind of gotten a more feel for what's needed on the site.
Mr. Garbarino, did you need approval from any other state or county agency for the fill?
No, health,
Okay.
the DEC said no, health
No?
department said no.
Okay, because maybe there was an engineer somewhere that reviewed it, that, you know, a government engineer.
The health department did look at that. They made us, for the septic system, for the approved plans for the septic system, they did review. That's why we're coming back here, because
But they had different considerations. Theirs was the septic, which we understand leaching. Ours is, I just don't want to create a problem that we set upon the neighbors. It may be perfectly fine. I just, my suggestion is I would love to have Deidre at least speak to the town. I think that's the modicum of due diligence we owe the residents of the town, that she can speak to him and he could say yay or nay or something in between. It doesn't look like it's problematic. I just don't know.
No, I agree. It would have been nice, but I mean, the engineer, the plans have been submitted for quite some time. I mean, we submitted this back in, I believe, June.
Well, you know people in town hall. No, I'm saying, I get
my applicants have to bear waiting until it's already been there for several months, and we have.
I know, but we don't want to create an ineluctable problem that the town will have to live with
Mr.
to
Wexler,
wait for want of a couple of weeks.
I can interrupt, Mr. Wexler, real quick. Just my input. I know this area well, and the house to the south of it was done. It's a spectacular house. I'm sure Phil was brought in and lifted up on that whole property. It's beautiful. The house to the north of it was recently done in the last 5 years. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on it. My opinion is if the applicants has an expert that can speak on it and they're willing to take that, if they have to come back, then they would have to come back then at that moment.
So what do you say?
Or we condition approval, Mr. Wexler, if it makes, it gives you comfort, we can condition approval on the approval of the town engineer.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah, because I don't have a problem with it. I just don't know. I don't want to create a problem.
I agree with that. I do condition it on the approval of the town engineer. So if they
Well,
have-
okay, I mean, now, what kind of approval? Approval on the whole site plan? Approval that the water's going to be kept? I mean, you know, we all know our town engineer, or some of the people in that department. So I don't, my concern is, you know, they might not, what approval? Is it based on the water being kept on site? Is it?
Yes.
based
Isn't
on-
that their requirement?
Do you not have to be subject to the engineering division review?
We do, but I'm,
Okay, so then what, we're not
But I'm
putting
talking
any
about-
additional burden on you. We're just actually helping you by giving you an approval.
agree, but I
and
don't-
saying you're subject to something you're already subject to anyway.
But are we subjecting the approval here on the fill
Yes, we are.
on entire site plan approval?
No, on approval with respect to the fill.
Yeah, it's only the fills in front of us. So
How many cubic yards of fill? If they say you need, 200, then obviously it's not going to be 232. It's going to be 200.
listen, I'm sure the expert engineers that you have, Mr. Garbarino, are well versed, and I'm assuming they're probably close to what they're proposing is correct. But if we just vote on it and have it be the approval for the fill on approval of the engineer of the town, I don't see what that hurts.
I two comments for you all. The engineer is now asking if he can be heard, and I don't see that he's muted.
I don't know, can he?
I know, that was my question back. Have you tried to break in, or I don't see that he's muted. And I think that if I could try to explain the confusion here, in a case that we saw back in March, there was a similar request for compensating excavation that was well into the hundreds. And it was quite an ambitious on-site drainage plan to rectify any potential concerns of the engineering division. I think that's what Mr. Garbarino is trying to ask if we agree to engineering's requirements, is he agreeing to whatever drainage they want to accept what could possibly be runoff?
We're
on
only talking about the amount of cubic yards of fill. That's it.
Right, but there's every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Well, no,
So-
it has a consequence, not an
So
a
the
reaction, a
consequence
consequence.
is the drainage and then the containment of the drainage on
Right.
site.
Right, but he's asking for 232.8. And unless I'm hearing my colleagues wrong, we're willing to give him that 232.8. However, he has to satisfy the town engineer that that's the appropriate amount. He would have to, we're not going to overrule the town engineer.
No,
'cause
no, the
we're not.
engineers.
And we have no testimony. Okay, so the
Vice
fact
Chairman.
is either we're going to approve it subject to, or we'll reserve decision and we'll wait to hear from the town engineer.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I
There's
just
your
want,
choice.
no, Mr. Vice Chairman, I just want to go a little bit on what Mary just said. It could be the difference between the town engineer saying, spend $50,000 on drainage and do 200 square feet, or something with 232 square feet you could do with 20,000 in drainage. The engineer loves to spend other people's money, as you know through some of your.
But Mr. Garbarino, I don't mean to interrupt, but wouldn't the town engineer be guiding the town? He better be, and us in any event. None of us are engineers. I'm not
And
an
we can't
engineer.
really overrule him on an engineering issue because that's not what we do.
But if the engineer says, well, we want 50,000, even though we want a system at 200 square feet, even though a different system at 232 cubic feet would work. I'm just saying they're going to say, well, the board granted it, but you have to do what we say.
They're going to do that anyway, though, aren't they?
You're not
do that
suggesting
anyway, aren't they?
You're not suggesting we overrule the town engineer.
I'm suggesting that that if you're willing to grant the 232 based on what the engineer, what our expert's going to say.
No, we're beyond that already. We said we'd like to hear from the town engineer. I don't.
And we could do that one of two ways. We can give you a conditional approval tonight, or we can wait until we hear from them and then vote on it. Your choice.
Is my expert?
Yeah, can we hear your expert? Mr.
But you know what? Even if your expert
I think you should
testifies,
still be
Mr.
able to-
Garbarino, we're still going to want to hear from the town engineer.
Am I not allowed to put on my case?
No, put on your engineer.
Absolutely put on your case. All I'm telling you is that it's not going to obviate the need for us to hear from the town engineer. So you could do whatever you like. We're here all night.
Hopefully not.
Your choice.
Is the expert there?
He keeps attempting to
Can you
connect.
hear me?
Oh, there we go. That's what you have to do. You have
Good
to jump
evening,
in.
everyone.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Mark Pallotta, Key Civil Engineering, offices at 664 Blue Point Road, Holtzville, New York. Yeah, so our office prepared the grading and drainage and the septic design for the application. The existing grades range from approximately 4 feet elevation to just below 3 feet elevation. The groundwater elevation on the site is at elevation 1.5. So with an average grade of about 3 and change, groundwater is located 1.5 feet below the existing grade. Because there are no sanitary sewers available, and because we're providing on-site drainage system, we need to raise the grade in order to provide these facilities for the proposed house. In fact, our proposed drainage system is located only a few inches above the highest groundwater elevation, which town engineering, this has, I believe, I'm covering this for one of the other principals in the office, but I know that it had at least been submitted to engineering. But
that's not
the
what
town
our
engineering
that's
is
not what our planning representative says. Our planning
Okay,
representative says the town engineer knows nothing about this. Okay.
Okay.
And
So,
you know,
Mr.
I'm sure
Engineer-
you are, you know, you're absolutely correct on all your numbers, but what those mean, we are lay people, and you know, our lack of confidence with respect to that, you know, results in a desire to confirm what you're telling us.
If I may
Not that we
also
don't
follow
believe
up,
you. Please
if
go
I
ahead,
may
Mr.
follow up, Mr. Messina, I'm sorry, Mr. Pallotta. I believe what you're saying, based on your calculations, the town engineer will indubitably agree with you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we give him or her the opportunity to do that? He's got to do it anyway.
So that's why can't we?
Can we adjourn the matter since the town engineer department has already had this for over 2 months instead of making either a reservation or a decision?
Sure.
Can
You can, sure, absolutely.
All right, let's do that because I don't want to, I think that'd be better so town can look at it and maybe we can adjourn it to a later date.
Okay.
Is that okay with the board?
Absolutely.
All right,
I appreciate that. You want to adjourn it till, or you want it open?
I was going to suggest the 29th, just because the plan with the engineering specifications has been here in our office, and I was disappointed today to find out that it's not been, to my knowledge, to engineering or building, but I do feel like it has been here. So in interest of fairness, we can give it 2 weeks from, or is that 3 weeks? 3 weeks from tonight.
Whatever it is, that's fine. But was this submitted to engineering or not, Ms. Pissarro? I don't understand.
No record of it. And Deirdre, you might have to jump in here, but Deirdre showed it to Tanner Gonzalez, who would be doing the whole house review from engineering standpoint.
Right.
And he wasn't familiar with it and did want to give it some time rather than trying to quickly do it this afternoon.
Okay. So, Mr. Galvarino, if you prefer the adjournment, I can only speak for myself. I'm happy to do that. That's fine.
Fine with that too.
Yeah, we're all on board. I have a feeling-
And in the interim, if you want to submit any written report from your engineer or anything else, we'll happily take it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? I make a motion to adjourn the application to September 29th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Application number 531-20, Robert J. and Nancy E. Quinlan, permission to leave in-ground pool with water feature having side yard of 17.1 feet instead of required 18 feet, pond having side yard of 1.8 feet instead of required 4 feet, pond over 150 square feet having side yard of 11.5 feet instead of required 18 feet, and shed not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, residence AA district, north side of Bardolier Lane, 385.66 feet east of Hampshire Road, Bay Shore, New York. Anyone here on an application?
Just moved in the applicant. May have to unmute yourself, Mr. Quinlan. Here we go.
Okay,
We can hear you.
okay. This is Robert Quinlan, 15 Bartolier Lane, Bay Shore, New York.
Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
Okay, good.
You want to state your case, or you want us to?
Well, yeah, I've lived in the house since 2002. These were, the ponds and the pool were in the ground before I moved in. Obviously, I've had ample time to address this, and I'm finally, trying to straighten this out. The shed is portable. I can move the shed. That's not a problem, but obviously the ponds, that's difficult to move.
Yeah. Do you know when it was built?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You know when the shed was constructed? Because the code changed back in early 2000s from 10 to 20.
Yeah, the shed we probably bought the shed in 2003. There was no shed on the property when we moved in.
When was the code changed? Was it 2003?
The shed?
No, Mary,
Wait,
2013.
say 2012.
Oh, yeah, 12. Okay, so it was built prior to the code, way prior to the code change. Do you have proof of that? Do we have it, maybe aerials, Deirdre? You could look at?
I can pull up an aerial. I did check. It's been there at least since 2004. So saying that he bought it, I believe, in 2003, it makes sense.
And
But I
would you
can
say
pull it up
it's probably just about 10 feet behind the front line of the dwelling?
Talking about the shed?
What was that?
The shed, but there's a roofed over porch, I guess you want to call it, or whatever that may be in the front. That's probably the front line of the dwelling. So you think the shed holds 10 feet if it was built in 2002, 2003?
I think it could be, but I can't know for sure.
What's your, any objection to the koi ponds? In-ground pool is just one little section of it that's rounded off.
No objections to everything else. Just as long as the shed is 10 feet behind, then no objections.
Does any, Mayor, do you have can you throw a quick rule on? Does anyone have, I don't have mine with me.
I don't think it's a problem, Mr. Chairman. Nobody's voicing any objection.
Yeah, I don't have a problem, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Board, have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Application granted. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Application number 532-20, Robert J. Santos. Permission to leave second story roof deck 5 foot by 8 foot, having front yard of 35 feet instead of required 40 feet, to leave driveway and patio having side yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence A District, west side of North Thompson Drive, 680 feet north of South 3rd Street, Bay Shore, New York. Is anyone here in this application?
I have moved him in. Let's see if he needs help. Mr. Santos, you may have to unmute yourself. You're in the panel now. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening.
Unmute.
You're good. You're good. You unmuted and we can see you.
Hey, how you doing?
We're good.
Good evening. This is my first time using Zoom, so it was kind of tough.
We're honored.
Hopefully it's your last.
Right, hopefully.
Name and address to the record, please, sir.
My name is Robert Santos, address 1730 North Thompson Drive, Bay, New York. How you doing?
Doing well, thanks. So we're, you're seeking permission to leave a second story deck, front yard of 35 instead of 40, driveway and patio side yard of 0.5 instead of 4 each. If your property is pretty deep, so it's only a small quarter portion of your driveway where the patio and driveway are on. Correct? Can you hear me, sir? Santos?
Yes.
Did you hear me, what I just said? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just having trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear yes.
Okay, great. The driveway and patio are only a short portion of the length of your property, the depth of your property. That's what I was saying to you. Did you get that?
Yes.
The roof over your house sits 40 feet. This is 35 feet. Deirdre from planning, any objection to any of this?
No objections.
Great. Does any of the board have any objections or questions?
Nope.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Yes, sir. Application 716-19, adjourned from October 1st, 2019. E&J Land Development LLC, permission to erect 2-story addition, adding 8 residential units to existing mixed-use building, leaving second front yard of 21.75 feet to building and 17.75 feet to deck instead of required 25 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 30.66% instead of permitted 27.5%, and to maintain 33.02% non-retail commercial space office on first floor instead of required 75%. GST District, northeast corner of Carlton Avenue and Washington Street, East Islip. Anyone here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, E&J Land Development, Joseph F. Bazell, Bland of Visconti, 535 Broad Hollow Road, Suite B4 in Melville.
How are you tonight?
Good evening. The application concerns an addition to an existing mixed-use building located
Oh,
at...
I don't mean to interrupt you, but is this, I may have to recuse myself on this. So I'm looking at the applicant and I'm going to recuse myself. Hi, Joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now you got to run the table, Mr. Vizel.
I suppose I do. The properties at 155 Carlton Avenue in East Islip. It's at the northeast corner of Carlton and Washington Street, just north of the Long Island Railroad tracks. It's a little over 33,000 square feet and is generally rectangular in shape with 188 feet in depth and 172 feet in width. It is improved with an existing two-story mixed-use building located in the northerly portion of the property. My client maintains their offices on the first floor of that building. There is one apartment above. The building is structurally sound. It's could use a little bit of external refurbishment, which is part of what is components of this application. Historically, the building was built as a funeral home in 1920 with an apartment. There was an addition in 61 and it was converted to retail in 92. The south portion of the property, presently vacant and open, used to support a greenhouse and garden center that has now been removed. Access is via a single curb cut on Carlton at the north end of the property. Parking is in the rear.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Vizel?
Yeah, sure.
Wait. I mean, the rest of this to me does the only thing that seems concerning from the call of the meeting is this 33% non-retail commercial space instead of the required 75%. Can you address that at least for me, if not for the other members of the board?
Yeah, sure. I will jump ahead to that.
Thank you.
We've been in the application process for over 2 years now. The code amendment you just cited was adopted in December. We were originally scheduled to be in front of the board in October of 19. It was adjourned because the planning department wanted us to explore abandoning the adjacent dead end portion of Washington, which we weren't able to do because of issues with county DPW that controls Carlton. The code amendment was not picked up by anybody until basically the day before our hearing originally in July.
Right.
So it's a unique situation on a unique property. It's a large lot. GST is odd in that it has a 10,000 square foot minimum, but a 40,000 square foot maximum. So we're at 33,000, which is at the large end. Because of the grade change going under the tracks, it's really not a subdividable property.
I get all of that. I just don't understand. You're asking for quite a big variance with respect to that one factor. So I don't know what the rationale would be for granting it. I'm not saying that there isn't one. I just don't know what it would be. I also don't know what the purpose of the code amendment was, and maybe Ms. Ryan can address that when she addresses the board. I mean, other than that's my only concern about the application, to be candid with you, because the variance relief that's left is not tremendous to me.
Yeah, particularly given the location of this site and the current condition on Washington, which will never connect to Carlton.
All right.
You know, when I say a large lot, one of those means that you look at it, the size of the office in terms of its scope. Is the office trivial? Is the office a tiny office that would never be occupied?
Why is there a 33%? Why is there a 75% first floor retail requirement? If you know.
To the best I understand it, it was to address the cases where people were basically trying to stick one small office space in an apartment building to argue it's a mixed-use building.
I see. Is that right, Ms. Ryan? Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And does this proposal live within, if not the letter of the code, the spirit of the code, because of the size of each of the respective uses, or does planning have a concern or objection with it?
No concern or objections. They did work with us and addressed our comments referring to placement of the dumpster and parking and things like that. So they did do changes based on our comments that we were happy with. It is an odd site because it's right next to the train tracks, and to the east of it, there's residential. To the north of it, I believe it's commercial, and there might be like a residential in the back. I'm not entirely too sure about this northeastern corner.
Right.
So there's really no objections with the site. It's just
Okay.
dual property and history and everything.
Thank you. So that satisfies me, Mr. Bazell. I don't know if you need to go any further, but obviously if you care to, that's your business.
I have always been a firm believer that discretion is the better part of valor.
That's why you've been around so long, sir.
I got 2 small kids, so I got to be around for a while to go. If the board has any other questions, I'm happy to field them or elaborate on any of the points that have originally been noted.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion granted. Have a great night, sir.
Have a great night,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Bazell.
Have a great night.
Application 533-20, Zachariah A. Nick Lurie. I'm sorry if I did not pronounce that properly. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to isotown code section 68-602 and to leave driveway having side yard of 2.1 feet and required 4 feet. Residence AA District, north side of Prospect Avenue, 125.78 feet west of Joshua's Path, Central Isil. Anyone here on that application?
Zachariah is here, trying to get them started. You may have to unmute yourself, Zachariah. Or Zachariah. There we go. Just unmute yourself. Do you see a little red microphone? There we go. You're all set.
Okay. I'm sorry, this is my first time.
Good
No
evening.
worries.
How are you?
We wish we could say the same.
Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, Zachariah Iniklau, my address 483 Prospect Avenue, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
Great. You're here seeking permission to establish accessory apartment.
Yes.
Everything's in order, ma'am?
Everything's in order. The apartment is small. It's 456 square feet. And the driveway has met engineering specifications. It just has a little side yard setback issue.
Great. And the driveway has a small little side yard where it flares out there, but we see them a lot. Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Chairman, I move we grant the application for, and with respect to the apartment for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Application 534-20. Kathleen and John Cox, permission to erect detached garage, 22 by 40 feet, leaving side yard of 4 feet instead of required 10 feet, having door height of 9 feet instead of permitted 8. Residence B District, west side of Cliff Avenue, 127 feet south of Parish Street, Sable. Is anyone here in this application?
We have John
Yes.
Bracco with his client.
Yes, good evening, John Bracco.
Good evening, Mr. Bracco. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Good, thank you. Just address for the record, please.
Sure. 111 Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York.
Great.
I'm here. Mr. John Cox was a little unsure of himself with the Zoom meeting, and I had him come to my office just to help him, make sure he could get through. So I'm going to slide the laptop over, and he's going to present his case.
Great.
Okay. Good evening.
Cox, how are you? Name and address for the record, please.
John Cox, 100 Cliff Avenue, Sable, New York, 11782.
Great. Want to state your case, or you want us to ask some questions?
No, I'll state my case. First of all, I want to state that I don't need a 9-foot garage door. I know that's on the variance application. but it doesn't work for me anyway. And so I'm going to put in one that meets the code, and that's number one. Number
Would you
two
like
is,
to amend the application to remove having door height of 9 feet instead of the permitted 8?
yeah, I don't want the 9-foot door anymore.
Yeah,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now, as far as the, what I'm asking for you to relax the ruling from 10 foot to 4 foot on a garage that's over 500 square feet, because I have, as you can see, I have an extremely narrow piece of property, right? And I'm limited on where I can put my garage by the DEC rulings. There was years ago, I was gonna build it in the back, and it would have worked fine. Could have went across the back, plenty of side. But the DEC wanted me to put it in the middle of the yard, a 6-foot chain link fence with no gate, and sign a piece of paper saying I'll never use the property. That wasn't acceptable to me.
So, sir, what's to the north of, in other words, what would be to the north of the shed? Right? That's your neighbor's property?
That's my neighbor's property. What's
Okay,
the,
what's there? Is there a structure next to that? Is it open land? What is it exactly?
well,
Do we have
no,
an aerial, Ms. Ryan?
no, there's a house and it has a small garage.
Would this be next to the garage or the house?
It would be next to the garage. It would be set back. It'd be set back if you can.
Okay, can someone point out to me where the neighbor's garage is right there? Oh,
Yeah, there it is right there.
all right, and yours would be like right next to it, right?
Actually, yeah, the front of it would be about in the middle of it.
Okay, so all it would affect on your neighbor's property is the garage, really, right? It wouldn't-
Yeah, it really
It's
wouldn't
not like
affect-
it would be right next to the house.
No, I'm not gonna be
Okay.
anywhere near his house.
Okay,
'Cause
good. That's important.
I don't have much property between my house and the property line. We share, but we don't share a driveway, but they're right next to each other.
Yeah, I got it.
So I'm really not interfering with anything, but I have a problem. I had to make it 22, which I would have rather made it 24, so I could put 2 cars side by side and then make it shorter.
Right.
But I can't go out into the yard anymore because on the south side, on my property line, I have about 6 foot of landscape shrubbery
Right.
Along there.
Right,
And
you've addressed my concern, sir. Thank you.
okay,
You did a good job there. Thanks.
Great.
any other questions?
I don't think so. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant, deny the application for the garage door.
Well,
Grant
that's
the
been
man-
withdrawn.
That was
Was
amended.
was withdrawn, it's gone?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I will grant the application as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, board. I appreciate it.
535-20, Eileen Rodriguez, permission to erect 1-story addition, 28.9 feet by 25 foot irregular, leaving rear yard of 23.3 feet instead of required 25 feet, to leave shed having rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 2 feet, to leave above ground pool having second front of 9.6 feet, and pool equipment having 7.5 foot instead of required 27 foot each, pool deck having second front yard of 13 feet instead of required 22 feet, and to relocate fence onto property line located within site distance triangle, Residence A District, southeast corner of Bristol Street and Spur Drive South, Isil Terrace. Anyone here in this application?
Max, you just have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Max Montalbano. I'm at 50 Andrew Avenue in Isil Terrace.
How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. How's everybody?
Good. Go ahead, state your
Yeah.
case.
I'm here basically to present a 1-story addition with the 23.3 instead of the required 25. Legalizing an above ground pool with a deck and a shed, basically that's 1.3, I think it is, instead of required 4.
So you have a lot of potential problems here, but the most pronounced one that I see, I don't know that we have ever granted anything to be located within the site distance triangle. And I see Mr. Wexler nodding. So,
Yeah, that-
right?
yes.
We've been through this before. So can you tell me why we should do that?
Just if I can chime in, hang on 1 second. That is Spur Drive South is a heavily traveled road. and that's strictly a safety concern, and that concerns us. So I've been on the board over 10 years, and we've never granted one. Go ahead.
You're talking about the above ground pool?
No. The
You wanted
fence.
to relocate a fence onto the property line within the site distance triangle. It's the last part of your application.
You want
I just noticed that. Yeah, I just noticed that part of the application. I thought we were just going in for the above ground pool on the second.
Well, you got some problems there too. You want to put a pool in the second front yard.
It's
but
already
that's
there.
a whole
No,
different
that
issue.
pool is already there.
Well, okay, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay there.
I understand. I understand.
With regards to the fence in the side triangle, sir, what the board's trying to say is that we have never approved that in the side distance triangle. It's a safety
Okay.
issue. You're gonna have to comply with the fence in the proper location on the property.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's go to the pool in the second front yard here. I'm gonna ask Deirdre from planning. I probably know the answer, but I'm gonna ask her, is there any precedent for an above ground pool in the second front yard?
No precedent.
Okay. So the pool, I don't believe we've ever approved a pool in the second front yard that far forward. Have we? Board, can anyone chime in and help me out? Because
I don't, not since I've been here, but I'm the rookie on this panel compared to you guys.
I don't have an independent recollection, Mr. Chairman. Maybe Mr. Sullivan does, but I do not remember doing it.
I have never remembered doing that either.
So you're asking for a lot of relaxation for an above ground pool on the deck in that second front yard.
Right, which I explained to my friend. This is actually a friend of mine, and again, they bought it in 2002, and it was there before. So I told them, this is what we need to do in order to go for a one-story addition. This is the things that need to be taken care of. So, and we need to do whatever we need to do. So.
Yeah, I mean, the shed and the addition, I'm just speaking for myself, don't pose any problem to me.
Right.
For
I
me.
agree.
I agree.
But you got to remove the pool and you can't have the fence, is the way I feel.
Gotcha.
So then you go back and tell your friend you had a big victory.
That's right, because you got him the addition.
Half of it, yeah, right.
Oh, that's more than half. That's big.
True. I like that one story in the back.
Maybe other locations behind the dwelling that the pool could be located in a later date if.
Right. It is what it is, so, okay.
Okay, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application in part, but deny so much the application to leave the above ground pool and also to leave the above ground pool and deny so much the application to relocate the fence onto the property line located within the site distance triangle.
And the pool deck as well, correct, Mr. Watson?
And the pool deck as well. Thank you, Mr.
Right.
My pleasure. I'll second the motion.
Favor?
Aye.
You have a great night, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. Application 485-20, Darling Medranda and Oscar A. Marcia Diaz. Permission to leave two sheds. Shed number 1 having a rear yard of 1 foot and a side yard of 1.5 foot, and shed 2 having a rear yard of 0.7 feet instead of required 2 feet each. To leave patio on side property line and driveway having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet each, and to leave entrance platform 9 foot by 20. Having front yard of 18.4 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet. Residence B District, north side of Pennsylvania Avenue, 300 feet west of Ohio Avenue, Bay Shore. Is anyone here in this application?
I am. I just can't see myself. Hello?
We can see you.
Oh, okay, perfect. My name is Angel Aponte, A-P-O-N-T-E. I reside at 1330 Washington Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. And I'm here as the agent for Miss Darling Medranda and her husband, Oscar Diaz.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good, Mr. Chairman. And the rest of the board, I can't see them, but I'm sure they're there.
So the sheds, we can move a little along. The sheds that seem de minimis. We see them a lot.
Yeah.
Pool, not the pool, the patio, side property line. I'm gonna ask planning what they feel on that, but I don't know if that's much of an issue. Deirdre from planning, any objection to that patio on the side property line?
No, there is a precedent for a patio having a side yard of 0, so no
Okay.
objections.
Okay, entrance platform, sir. 18.4 instead of 20. It seems de minimis to me. I'm gonna ask Deirdre regarding their opinion from planning.
No objections.
Great. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you very much.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this?
Smartest man of the night.
Anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Have a great night, sir.
Application 465-20, Armin's Property Management LLC. Permission to use the second front door in violation of section 68-32C. Definition: single-use family, a single-family use, residential A district, northeast corner of West Plum Street and Freeman Avenue, Brentwood. Anyone here in this application?
I just moved him into the panel. We have Rory Vasquez.
Mr. Vasquez, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great.
Good evening, everybody. I'm joining you tonight to see if I can get permission to leave the second front door. Currently, it's a breezeway that we put a door on. In this, in the summer, my 93-year-old father and my 90-year-old aunt used it to sit in, because it's a breezeway, and this way they're out of the elements. They keep their gardening tools in there. That current door has been there since the 70s.
All right, I'm confused. Where are the doors?
The doors are in the front of the house.
Do we
What's
have a
the front?
photograph?
Freeman Avenue or West Plum?
West Plum.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you, whoever did that. Deirdre, I'm assuming.
Breezeway.
There you go. That's the breezeway.
All right, I gotcha.
Okay, so that door and that door's been there since the 70s. My father put that in back then. Just 2 years ago, in 2018, I wanted to close in the back. So I went to the town and filled out all the documentation. I closed it in on the back end and got the approval. The inspector came and said everything was okay. When I went to close it out, I was told that I had to get rid of the front door. So it's something that I didn't know I had to do. So because it's in front of the driveway, it's easy for my elderly father and aunt to get into the house. And that's the way they enter. So I was hoping that we could just keep that door there. There is no heat or plumbing in there. It's just storage. I have pictures if you want, I could show you.
It could be heat and plumbing. I mean, it wouldn't concern me. As a fundamental thing, I think you have the right to 2 front doors if you wish, or 4 if you want. But
Mr. Former Town Attorney.
Well, no, if you remember, I was a former applicant of a person who wanted 2 front doors.
So it appears in section 68-3 now I think it's in definition of family or in single family dwelling. You'll remember over the years, there were many attempts to.
Well, and if you remember, I did once upon a time bring one of these applications and no one knew where to send it. My client, I think, wound up either dying or moving before anyone could figure out what to do with it. It was taking so long.
So sometimes we hear these in association with accessory apartments where it's specifically enumerated in the accessory apartment ordinance that you may not have the appearance of other than a single family dwelling.
Right.
But this is I guess, relatively newish amendment to the code that it actually appears in the definition section, I think, of single family dwelling. And
an interesting place to put it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can chime in, we've seen a handful of these, and I have to say this is the least offensive second front door application I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. And if they choose to do a different application down the road for possibly, accessory apartment, then they're gonna have to address it then, in my opinion. Right?
Can I just make one request, since we try to keep the spirit of the code? If we do grant this, maybe we can write on it so we don't open the door to second front doors ad infinitum, because this is really not offensive looking, but we don't want to, we know what we're going to see, where you see them almost side by side.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Will too, if he thinks that how this squares up with the law, the town code is written.
I'll have to review that section of the code. But what would you like to see as a distinguishing feature?
You're the
that it-
lawyer.
it-
You're
it-
the lawyer.
Certainly it predated the ordinance based on the applicant's testimony, right? If it goes back to 73, I think you said, sir?
Early
Oh.
70s.
Early 70s.
There you go.
So there you go.
There you go, Mr. It predates it. We don't have to get into. Thank you, Mr. You know what?
Thank you.
It's always good to have a former town attorney on the.
It is. It certainly is.
All right, great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Chairman, I move to grant the application based on the applicant's testimony of the existence of this particular situation since the early 70s.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, sir. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Ms. Pissarro, do we have any other business or should I make the motion to adjourn?
We don't.
All right, then I will make a motion to adjourn the hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Aye.
Right.